Hey, Nick, before free agency, obviously you're looking at players that the team might be targeting, watching them and whatever. And I know that you're a lot busier now than you would be in February or March, but as the trade deadline comes up, do you get asked to watch players that they might be interested in trading for? And how does that go with how busy you are at this time of year?
Yeah, anytime we're talking about a player, yeah, Howie and I watch it, and he'll put me on the radar of it and say, hey, watch this guy, or and then we'll talk about it. We do that with everything. We talk about everything, and so the process in that is no different than free agency, college scouting, trades, everything.
How many guys have you looked at?
Nick, when it comes to offense in general, max protection, what are some of the pros and cons from your perspective when you use max protection?
Yeah, it depends. There's different varieties of that. Are you max protecting because they're bringing more than you can block? Are you max protecting to sell play action, right? So there's different varieties of that. I would say the main things that you asked about, the negatives of it, or positives of it are obviously there's times that you keep the pocket firm. There's also times that I'll just give you one of each. You keep the pocket firm, and then there's sometimes you get poor matchups. You'll get and that could be either way, but you get a known rusher on a non-offensive lineman. So there is obviously many pros and cons to everything in this game. Those are two things right there.
Nick, how many of the changes we've seen offensively since the bye week are a direct result of input from players?
Yeah, we talk about everything together. We go through our processes together. I'm not, again, same thing. I won't say, hey, this percentage or that percentage or anything like that. But you try to evaluate as a coach what your players do well. And you do that based off practice. You do that based off games and what you're being successful at, and what you're not being successful at. And you do that also by talking to the players. Hey, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? So it's a both and we're all in this together. We win games together. We lose games together. We get to the best answers, together. So again, it's just why it's one of the greatest team sports there is.
Nick, can you see Ben's role moving forward, and even beyond this year, going either offense or defense? And is there any way you think he can expand his offensive role?
Yeah, well, he's doing a good job of the things we're asking him to do. We'll see how that goes. But the things that we're asking him to do, he's done a nice job at. He's one of our best special teams players. It's been exciting watching him. I think that's where the excitement to use him a little on offense has been his success on special teams. And when he's had an opportunity to play at linebacker, he's done a nice job there too, because we need that depth at that position and his athleticism at that position. So, we'll see. I like what we're doing with him right now. Won't get into where he meets and everything like that, but I like what we're doing right now with him, and we'll see how the year progresses.
So the last couple of weeks where Tyler has filled in for McCoy, have you seen something in Tyler's game these last few weeks that maybe he's improved on a lot from the summer?
Yeah, I think in the last game, I thought you saw a lot of movement, displacement from anytime he had to block down on a tackle. I felt like he was getting really good displacement in that game, and I think that's something that he's worked really hard at. Always known he had the ability to be able to move guys, and I think it's come together for him. These last couple weeks, and you notice it in practice, and then it carries over to the game. But he's done a nice job, and I think that we all have a lot of confidence in him. His teammates have confidence in him, and they should, because he's stepped up and he's performed and helped us win some football games, because of his play.
In your past few years, what perspective have you gained on LeSean McCoy's career here that maybe you didn't know from afar?
You know, I was able to follow his career quite a bit, and I was at IUP when he was at Pitt and in Philly, and then his brother, right before I got there, played at IUP. So a lot of the guys that I coached with or that still played there were friends with his brother, and so there was a natural following there of us watching him. And so I was able to see a lot, and I always thought just, man, how special he was with the ball in his hands, of making guys miss in space. And you saw that, I remember watching him play. There was a big-time game they had against West Virginia, and I remember watching him play in that game. And he just had this special ability. So I think that when I got here, I knew a lot about him. But then when you get here, you hear all the, how great of a player he was, and one of the all-time greats for the Eagles. My number was 25. I always like the guys that wear number 25. I have a special thing with the guys that wear number 25. And so, but again, knew a lot about him prior to coming here, and just thought how awesome he was with the football. And then I think the main thing that I probably, to answer your question, the main thing I've probably learned is that snow game, that I just hear about that snow game against, was it Detroit, of how everybody's slipping on the field, and he's making these cuts at full speed. Well, that's the special type of player he is. And I've gotten to talk to him, multiple times, and I just, I think so highly of him. Always appreciate his support when he's talking to me about the team, as a former Eagle. And then interestingly, when we first got to Indy, he was at Buffalo in the snow game when Buffalo played Indy, and I remember making those cuts in that game as well. And so, again, just awesome with the ball in his hands. I don't think he put the ball on the ground very often, but we talk about the ball a lot. He's a little loose with it, but no, I'm just kidding. He obviously did. He knew how to take care of it, and he knew when to take care of it. He knew how to, get the ball away. But man, he was a special guy to watch. I'm really excited for him, and man, you go through these things, and then your number, you go into the Hall of Fame, the team's Hall of Fame, and that's pretty special. So obviously a special career by him.
Nick, you've often talked about the collaboration on offense with you and Kellen. As you guys have figured it out offensively these last 3 games, are there any stories you can share that, remind you of why you wanted him to be a part of this offense?
Yeah, I think Kellen is a great offensive mind to say, I think sometimes in football, I know in football, it's like, it's not the consistency is what you admire in the daily grind, not the aha moments, right? Especially as coaches, we don't go out there and make plays, right? But I think it's just his consistency, his mind, as a football coach, super sharp, constantly always looking for ways to get better. I'm always, I'll go into his office and, he's always watching tape. If I go into his office, he's always watching things that help him grow as a coach too, not necessarily even just tape of the opponent, but tape around the league or tape of, his brother puts a lot of good football out there, watching that in colleges. And so I'm always admired the guys that have had the success that they've had in this league, but still look to grow. And I think Kellen is right at the top. He's one of the better coordinators in this league, and say the same thing for Vic. But really pleased of with those two guys, and the daily work that they have. Again, it's not about I think it's about their daily habits and their daily work. But can't say enough good things about those two guys.
Do one more.
We've seen Jalen Carter miss a couple practices over the last 3 weeks with the shoulder injury. What's the best way to explain what's going on there?
Yeah, obviously you miss when you aren't able to go, and so and then obviously us being smart with limiting him to make sure he's ready on Sunday. But and that's always a fine line, Tim, you got to get the guys ready for Sunday mentally and physically, but you also got to get them ready for Sunday physically, right? And so, it goes a little bit like, hey, we got to get him in practice so he's ready to play, but hey, if he practices here, will we have him at full strength? So it's always a fine line there, but I think he's done a nice job as far as when he hasn't been able to practice, of being in it mentally. I think he's continuing to get better, and I'm just looking for him to continue to have that consistency as a football player. Practice is going to help him, and then playing in those games will obviously continue to raise his level of play.
All right, thank you.